When I first walked into the small examination room that morning, I didn't realize my life was about to change forever. My name is Dr. Emily Carter, and I have been a practicing urologist for more than 10 years. I have seen hundreds of patients with all kinds of struggles, some physical, some emotional, and some a mix of both. My goal has always been to heal with compassion, not just medicine. But nothing prepared me for the day I met Daniel Thompson, a man whose quiet suffering would challenge not only my skills as a doctor, but also the walls I had built around my own heart. Daniel came into my clinic on a rainy Tuesday morning. He was in his mid-30s, with sharp features and tired eyes that carried stories of sleepless nights. His handshake was polite but hesitant, and when he sat down across from me, I could sense his unease. As a physician, you learn to read the unspoken signs, the tapping of fingers, the shifting of weight, the way someone avoids eye contact. It often speaks louder than words. "Dr. Carter," he began softly, I've been dealing with something for a while, and it's starting to affect more than just my health." I encouraged him gently, my voice calm and steady. "You're in the right place, Daniel. Whatever it is, we'll work through it together." That reassurance must have eased him a little because he finally looked up at me. His eyes, though clouded with worry, had a depth of sincerity that struck me. He explained his medical condition, and while the details are private, what mattered most was how deeply it had affected his confidence, his relationships, and his sense of self-worth. He wasn't just asking me for treatment, he was asking me for hope. Over the following weeks, Daniel became one of my most committed patients. He followed every recommendation carefully, attended his appointments without fail, and even kept a journal of how he was feeling physically and emotionally. What touched me most was his honesty. Many patients try to hide their fears, but Daniel wore his heart openly, even when it was painful. As his doctor, my job was to guide him medically, but I couldn't ignore the human being in front of me. Sometimes, our sessions went beyond clinical discussions. We spoke about life, about his work as an architect, about the late nights he spent sketching buildings that might one day grace the skyline of our city. He told me about his mother, who had always encouraged him to chase his dreams, and about the loneliness he sometimes felt since moving away from his hometown. It was in those conversations that I realized something was shifting inside me. I had always kept strict boundaries between myself and my patients. It was necessary, professional, and right. But Daniel's resilience, his vulnerability, and his kindness touched a part of me I had long ignored. I had spent years burying myself in my work, avoiding love after a painful divorce. My life had become predictable, safe, and a little empty. Daniel reminded me that behind every case file was a beating heart, and in his presence, my own heart began to stir again. One evening, after a particularly long session where we discussed not just his health, but also his struggles with believing in himself, Daniel said something that stayed with me. "Dr. Carter, you don't just treat patients. You make people feel seen."
I didn't know how much I needed that until now.
His words pierced through me. I had always prided myself on empathy, but hearing it from him felt different, more personal, more profound. I smiled and thanked him. But that night, alone in my apartment, I replayed his voice over and over. As weeks turned into months, Daniel's condition improved remarkably. His confidence began to return, and with it came a spark of joy I hadn't seen in him before. He laughed more easily, carried himself with dignity, and spoke about his future with optimism. Watching him heal was deeply rewarding, but it also stirred emotions I wasn't sure I should allow myself to feel. Then came the day that blurred the line between doctor and patient. After his final checkup, when I confirmed that his treatment had been successful, Daniel lingered in the office. He didn't stand to leave, though the appointment was technically over. Instead, he looked at me with a vulnerability that felt almost fragile. "Emily," he said, for the first time using my first name, "I don't want this to sound inappropriate, but I need to be honest. These months have been life-changing, not just for my health, but for who I am. And a lot of that is because of you. You gave me back my confidence, but more than that, you gave me back hope. I find myself caring about you in a way I didn't expect." My breath caught. As a physician, I knew the professional answer would be to gently decline, to remind him of boundaries. And yet, as a woman who had been quietly longing for connection, I couldn't deny what my heart was screaming. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Daniel," I began, my voice trembling, "you mean a great deal to me too. I felt it even when I tried to push it aside. But you have to understand the complexity of this. I'm your doctor, and that makes things complicated." He nodded, understanding, but he didn't look away. "I don't want to cross any lines, Emily. I just needed you to know. Even if nothing comes of it, I had to tell you." That night, I wrestled with my emotions. The professional in me said to move on, to protect the boundary. But the human in me, the woman who had felt lonely for years, knew that something real had sparked between us. Was it wrong to nurture that? Or was it life giving me a second chance at love? Over time, as Daniel's official patient status came to an end, we found ourselves reconnecting in new ways, running into each other at community events, sharing coffee at a quiet cafe, or walking along the river where he sketched designs. With each meeting, it became less about doctor and patient and more about two people discovering each other. I learned that Daniel had a gentle strength, the kind that doesn't demand attention but quietly supports everyone around him. He learned that beneath my professional armor, I was a woman who still believed in love, even if I had once been broken by it. Our bond deepened, slowly, carefully, and respectfully. The day he finally took my hand in his, it felt natural, like the culmination of all the moments we had shared. There was no dramatic confession, no whirlwind romance, just a steady, honest love that had grown out of trust, care, and the courage to heal. Looking back now, I realize that being a urologist taught me to treat physical pain, but meeting Daniel taught me to heal emotional wounds, his and mine. I had done everything to help my patient, and in the process, I discovered that sometimes the greatest medicine is love itself. Our story isn't one of perfect fairy tale romance. It's about two people finding light after darkness, about hope returning when least expected. It's about the courage to let someone in, even when the world tells you to keep your distance. And most of all, it's about the simple truth that healing doesn't end with the body, it extends to the heart. Daniel is no longer just my former patient. He is my partner, my confidant, and the man who reminded me that love can bloom even in the most unexpected places. Together, we've built a life grounded not in perfection but in compassion, resilience, and trust. And every day, I'm grateful for that rainy Tuesday morning when he first walked into my office and unknowingly walked into my heart.